For the final project, what you may want to do is start with an existing page that you've developed and then make modifications to that and incorporate the requirements of the final project into that page. And what I did is I started with the responsive photo collage, and I obviously made several changes to it uh, to incorporate requirements from the final project. And I did create a final project structure that is required. Basically, you have to have a final project folder, and in that folder, you have to have a media folder and a CSS folder, which I have. And as you are working on your site, you should think a little bit about the design because you are going to have to post that information to the discussion. So the purpose, the intended audience, the color scheme, why you chose those colors, the layout, and the design, those are all things that you are going to have to talk about in the final presentation. Then we get into minimum requirements. So you have to have the meta tag and the viewport. You have to have meta tags for keywords and a description, which I have. Okay, so I did put in the meta for the viewport plus the description and keywords up in there. You had to have 4 images, and I readily met that. I have well over 4. All of the images should have alternate text with keywords from the page. Mine do. All images and backgrounds should be responsive. So to make these responsive, if you make the widths 100%, which I did, that makes them responsive. And I also made that background in the header responsive as well. So you can see that size is 100%. And text and content should flow around images that are embedded. The way I did that is I used grid view for my responsive layout. And when you use grid view, it does allow you to have content next to each other. So for my header in that section, where I've got the text, I set that to column 10. And then where I've got the menu, hamburger, and the logo, I set that to column 2. And this is my little hamburger logo. So this is set to column 2. This is set to column 10. They have to equal 12. And it's pretty easy to use grid view. It's the responsive format that I actually prefer. You have to include all the required HTML tags, so doc type, HTML, head, title, body. Then you should also have article, section, header, footer, and nav. And I did incorporate all of those into here. And where I have nav is in my sidebar navigation. And that is also where I put the JavaScript requirements. So here is my sidebar. You will notice that I incorporated the icon bar here as well. So it serves several purposes. It's an icon bar, it's got my JavaScript in it, and it has the nav tag. So multi-purpose little bar here. Plus you'll notice that I also have some of the CSS3 transition and animation effects going on here as well. I did include print and screen or index CSS. And remember to check your print CSS, you have to press Control P. And so it's pretty plain and boring because you don't want all of the graphics to print. And my page is primarily graphics. Let's see. So I did do a menu with 4 links. Each one of these are links to a different page. And I did utilize the nav tag for that. And for this, you can see I didn't do overlay, I did the push. So it kind of shoves everything over when it displays. And I kind of like that because then I can keep it displayed while I'm looking at things. Another thing you'll notice is that I did do transition here on the images. So what I did in my CSS for that is I've got the images displayed with an opacity of 0.5. But then when you hover over them, the opacity goes to 1, so they're solid. And there's a little transition on that. And let's see, the footer should include contact information. You also need some kind of copyright on your page. The title for the page should be in the head section. So what that is referring to is the title that displays up on the tab. And in the footer, I have my contact information and I put the copyright right here. And I did include the JavaScript menu, which satisfies the JavaScript requirement, and I did include the icon bar. For the CSS, you do need to bring in a Google font, so I brought in this one. And it's pretty easy to do this. Oops, if you spell Google Fonts right. All you have to really do is find a font that you like and click the plus sign and then go ahead and click on that font and you want to import it. And then you can just copy and paste this import code right to the top of your CSS file. Okay, and looking at this one, it always displays the name. So this is the name of the font. And in mine, the name is Amaranth, which actually is kind of a weird name for a font, but that is what it is. And where I am using that is down in the header 3, which is the text that is down here. So basically the CSS requirements just tell you everything that you need to have in your CSS. So make sure you have those minimal requirements. If you want more, that's perfectly fine, but this is the minimum. And for your print CSS, the goal is not to have any colors print, have just plain text with no graphics, no images, that kind of thing. So you're going to want to go through and set up your print CSS, and the JavaScript will print if you have it on your main page, and I do. So what I had to do for the print CSS, let me show you, is I actually have the script representing the script tag display none, and that actually prevented that JavaScript that is displayed down here from printing out. Okay, and the only other things that you need to do are add a link to your assignment page for this final project. And then after you transfer it, make sure you check the project live, because quite often things work offline, but they do not work online. So I want you to make sure that once you transfer it, that you like how it looks.